Hi Ali, here's your video feedback now. Just to say I'm really pleased that Joey is feeling a lot better. You've had such a rotten summer with him not being good, but also with the ground conditions and the weather. I mean, I know you've had as much wet, probably more than we have, but it's just been a fairly disastrous summer. So really glad, even though it's going into winter, that he's feeling a lot better. I understand totally that your grass is long and wet and it's a struggle sometimes, but I actually thought the work's really good. I'm going to have to be quite nitpicky to find stuff for you, you know, so don't take... I'm giving you feedback. I don't want to just say, yeah, that's great. Anyone can do that. I want it to be that you pick something up out of each thing. You're becoming very nuanced in this work now, so that's really important. I noticed, and I've noted down the points at which you say you got stuck. I've looked at the video, and honestly, when you say you got stuck, he was just sort of, to my mind, often thinking his way about how he puts himself into the position you want him to. I've responded to your other email about the travers separately, but it's a similar idea. You know, sometimes we are, you'll see my explanation in that, sometimes we close the door, and in that respect we then allow them out of another door somewhere along their body. And with him, it's just about him taking the time to work out which bit of his body to put forwards, and then you saying either yes, you can go through that bit, or no, try and find another way. And he looks to me as if he's really thinking and trying to work it out. So I'm not unhappy about the fact that you got stuck a couple of times. I am going to also give you some help in working out why. So here we are on the vault at the beginning, and I think given the conditions this is really lovely. Soft, supple in the neck. If I was to say anything, he's heavy on that left shoulder, and you haven't really addressed that in the vault with your body positioning. So that when you come here into the shoulder in, let me just do you some lines on that, where you come into the shoulder in there, he is already leaning in here onto you. And then you're trying to push all the weight from that side back into this right shoulder, which is really hard, because he's obviously quite a lot heavier than you are. So if you'd have gone into the beginning of this with a little more attention, let's take those off, a little more attention to this side here, so that on your vault you were thinking of keeping him up a little bit more through that shoulder, into, so the balance is more into the right shoulder, I think you'd have made life a little easier for yourselves. Nevertheless, it's a pretty good shoulder in. But I'm sure now if you watch that back again, you'll see what I mean. So here we come on the left rein into the moving turn on the forehand, but you're a lot better, but then let's watch that again. You start off really well in that moving turn on the forehand, and then you say to him, oh, but why don't you just fall in on me? So here we go. You start it beautifully, look, but then you stand still a little, you follow him, good, but then eventually you just drop back a little, and that lets him into the space. So again, his weight's less than last time, but a little on that left rein. So it's more difficult for you to get the balance into the right. So here we come. Okay, you got a little bit stuck there, and I think you just need to remember that think of every movement as first needing forwards. Just like when you're sat in a car, you can't do anything when you've got your four wheels planted and stationary. So think about needing the forwards movement first. So if it feels like you're jamming up in a movement, think, well, I'll let him have some forward steps. Have some forward steps, go back into it in a different place, and there you go. Adding a little bit as you go. A little bit like in the travers or the shoulder in, where we might bring the shoulder in or the quarters in, forget the bend, then add a bit of bend later. We could also, in the same way, just add in a little bit of forward. So you might have a few straight steps, it's not always just about bend and angle in the lateral work. Sometimes you just have to ride or move forwards into some action. That's nice. See how you kept the shoulder up there? And you're keeping it up a lot better there. Bingo. Yes. Lost it a fraction, but you... Oh, Ali, brilliant. So you can see you've solved it yourself. By the third or fourth one, you've already solved your own problems. You'd forgotten. You were walking out of his shoulder and forgetting to address them. That's utterly brilliant. Well done. I love that one. I think you know that one was quite good. So when you get stuck, don't worry. It's just let him process it and then come in again. Maybe make the next one a bit easier. So now we're coming a right vault. Again, lovely softness. Love how his neck is. He falls a little low on you. I'd like to see him up a little bit more in this. He's gone a bit low on you. And again, if we just take a quick look at that. You see how that right shoulder's really heavy? And look how your angle... Pause that. Let's have a look at the Ali angle on that. So we've got you coming up from here. Well, it's a funny old way I've done that, sorry. And Joey coming a little bit like this. And the two of you are kind of leaning in a leaning match. So you're always going to struggle then to have this shoulder here nicely filled, nicely connected, and you're always going to have weight on the one on this side, which is a lot more difficult to shift. But I'm guessing that you'll solve this problem. Yeah, good. I mean, there is always one rein that's slightly heavier anyway, as you know. Good, and again, he's falling in on you, and you can sense that a little bit, I think, in that one. And again, you let him fall in on that right shoulder, that then makes it really hard. Yeah, that was one of your stuck ones. Again, I mean, I think you're being harsh. I love this stretch down as well. I think you're being harsh on yourself when you say that one was stuck. He's just feeling his way around it, honestly. I'm not worried about it. Again, look, what did you do there? Oh. I'm only teasing, really. So we go from this stretch. And let me get ready for the great reveal. So it's about 2 seconds before that. Okay, here we go. What does Ali do? Yeah, I'll just lean back out of it. You didn't actually step back until a couple of seconds out of it. And then you realised, and you lost it, that you'd lost it, and you started lifting up through the rein to find it. Oh, where has it gone? Where is it? I haven't got his shoulder. And you did actually manage to come out of it okay, which says to me that you're getting much more of a feel for this. It's all about the shoulders. The whole thing, French equitation relies heavily, of which Baroque is, you know, a massive part, hinges on lightening up the shoulders. And so it's really, really important. So I'll put it there. That's what you need to work on, lightening those shoulders, the ability to put weight into one, weight into the other. Think about things we've done. You can yield out into it. You can giravolta into it, but first of all, take the shoulders out first before you add in the quarters. You can just ask for a little tiny bit of outside bend. That's not to say bend through the whole body, because you're not on the outside, therefore you can't really do that. It's just flexion between where the rein passes over the neck to you and the bit or the noseband on that side. So you're just asking for outside flexion, which just puts a little bit better balance into that outside shoulder before you ask for the inside bend. So these are all little things that you could use to warm up and play around with and think, does this change his balance? You say you can do some in hand when you're out hacking. That's a great thing to do. So yeah, he got a bit upset there because he tried a few things and they didn't work, and understandably then he gets a bit defeated. So just go forwards to some walk, add in more walk work with this, if that helps, you know, intersperse it with longer periods it's just the two of you. Again, you just let him fall in on that shoulder. Let's go back, but actually ended up with a reasonably good shoulder in. You see that? How his 4 feet were getting closer and closer to yours, and you've really got to stop that drift in, that lean in, and that will be the most fantastic shoulder in when you do. It really will. So let's just recap. It didn't matter that I didn't see the stretches, because your stretches are great anyway. I've no worry. It's just always a reminder to you that you need to change the posture. You know, that's really a stretch. We refer to it as a stretch, but in reality it's an elongation of the frame of the horse. Stretching is more something we do when we're stood still. So carrot stretches, neck bend, flexion. Once we're in movement, we're talking about the actual skeleton changing shape to a degree, lengthening, shortening, lifting up at the front, whatever. But I know you're really good at that, so I haven't got any qualms about that. I think you already made some good choices, like only doing 180 degrees. You could even do less. You could do 90. You could do 1 step of moving turn of the foot on the forehand. What it does is lighten up the shoulders for you, or what it should do is lighten up the shoulders for you, give you that great balance into the shoulders, and that mobilizes the front end of the horse. As I've said about a car being stuck in stop, you're not going to turn. You're not going to get the wheels turning easily when all the weight is on the tyre. It's the same with the horse. If all the weight is on that front end, it's very difficult. So you need to make sure you're always addressing that with the shoulders. I wouldn't worry about your feelings of changing the rein hold, because at some point in the future you will do almost everything from the same rein hold. Whether it's the lower or the upper will depend on you. You will become just naturally adept at lifting him into the new frame and him saying, all right, I'm meant to be there until I go somewhere else. So don't worry that the upper frame, the holding the frame up in a different hand position, is to help Joey through this period at the moment, and later you'd be able to do all this work almost off a cordae around his neck or something, you know, because it ceases to be about, you know, an individual rein being here or there, and it just becomes about him adopting the posture. I think you did some great work, and I think you'll be able to see where you could tidy that up in future. But more than anything, I'm just so pleased that he's feeling lots better. So I probably won't write too much up in the way of notes for that, and I'll see if I can find that Nuno Oliveira video. It's written, but my whole point is that, and I'm not actually that pleased with, it doesn't make me that happy, some of the beginning stuff. This is a reschooling horse that he's got in. It's very old, the film's not that great. But what I want you to look at is how he doesn't follow a pattern. You can't tell, is he going into shouldering now? Is he going into travers? He shortens the walk into something called the school walk, which is a diagonal walk. It's quite a long video. You don't have to watch the whole thing. It's just to give you that idea of what you're looking for. You're looking for resistance all the time, and you just move into another movement without thinking eventually. And you're so far along that already that you're going to be great at it. Well done.